Renwick. I'm Deputy Director of the Constitution Unit at University College London, which is a research centre focusing on how best to run democracy. I've been invited here, I think, because we established an independent commission on referendums in 2017, which reported in 2018 to look at how to conduct referendums better in the UK. I was research director for that, and I've done a range of research on referendums. I'd like to do two things in my 5 minutes. First, to lay out some of the aspects of the design of citizen initiatives that I think are important, and second, to indicate some of the pros and cons of citizen initiatives that, again, I think need to be considered. I have to say my perspective is quite similar to that of Dr. Zock that we've just heard. I was very impressed by her evidence, but I draw more on European evidence and experience in my thinking. So, on aspects of the design of citizen initiatives. So the sessional paper for this review refers to two types of initiatives, as also did Dr. Zock. And there are two broad types, I think. So firstly, what I would call abrogative referendums or vetoes, so vote to repeal a law that has been passed by the legislature. And secondly, initiatives in the true sense, proposals for new laws or policies. And then there are various further distinctions within these. Abrogative votes can be on a law that's already in force or one that's just been passed before it comes into force. Any kind of abrogative or initiative vote can be restricted. Some states restrict only to constitutional matters. Some say they cannot be on constitutional matters. They can only be on non-constitutional matters. Some exclude certain policy areas, for example, decisions about taxation. A second area that I think is important is around signature collection, and again we've heard about that, and that's on the sessional paper. I guess in addition to the points on the sessional paper, there are questions around how signatures are collected. Dr. Zock talked about hand collection versus online, and there are also questions around the rules for campaigners. I would hope you would want to ban payment for signatures and payment for signature collectors as well. A third issue is whether the result of the vote is binding or advisory. So New Zealand, for example, is a country that has non-binding votes, and sometimes the legislature chooses to not to follow a popular vote result. Some states, quite a few states, have turnout requirements, so the result is binding only if a certain turnout threshold is met, so that you don't have a matter getting onto the statute book on the basis of relatively limited support. And then a final aspect that I would focus on is what happens when the signatures are collected, once the required threshold has been met for signatures. So the most direct version is that you go straight to a popular vote and the result is binding. As Dr. Zock said, that cuts out any process of structured deliberation about the proposal, so may therefore not be desirable. A few other options. So in Switzerland, the proposal goes first to Parliament, which debates it in depth, decides whether to accept it. It can put forward a counter-proposal, and that goes to voters alongside the original proposal. In Oregon, the state of Oregon, Dr. Zock didn't mention this, but proposal goes directly to the popular vote, but wherever possible, a citizens panel is formed, randomly selected group of citizens to deliberate on the proposal, set out its views, and that goes into the voter information pack so that voters have good information. A final model that I'd like to advocate is one where the proposal goes first to a citizens panel or a citizens assembly that examines the proposal in depth and decides whether it should go to a popular vote. And something like that is now being tried in part of Belgium, in the German-speaking region of Belgium. So very quickly on some of the pros and cons of citizen initiatives. I think the main arguments in their favour are firstly just that they give people a direct vote in policy making, direct voice, and that is good in itself. And secondly, there is evidence from multiple academic studies that having citizen initiatives leads to policy outcomes that are closer to the preferences of the average voter. Despite these pros, the Independent Commission on Referendums are recommended against the introduction of citizen initiatives in the UK, and it did so for three reasons. So the first reason was there was a concern that citizen initiatives can sometimes be used to undermine minority rights.
Dr. Renwick,
We've seen
I
that in
hate
several...
to interrupt you, but that is the time we have. I'm like I did with the last presenter, happy to give you another maybe 15 or 20 seconds, but then we'll get into questions.
Okay, so first point, undermining minority rights. Second point, they can be dominated, as Dr. Zock said, by vocal groups of campaigners. Third point, the one that I've already raised, they cut out deliberation, and that's a really important concern.
Thank you.